And now, Driving in the Rain with Eddie Pepitone.
Oh boy, I woke up late and I had a fare already, so I came tumbling down the stairs. And when I say tumbling, I mean I was actually tumbling like a Karamazov, brother. I had taken tumbling at the University of Nebraska a long time ago. I was a tumbler, not a tumler, which is a raconteur in Yiddish theater, but a tumbler. And I tumbled into my Uber / Lyft / Instacart / Bloodmobile / Bookmobile / COVID vaccination mobile / therapy mobile / electroshock therapy mobile / Instacart / DoorDash mobile / wrists. And I got in the car and I turned her on, and just as I turned on my sweet little Betsy / Instacart / well, you know, I just went through that. The rain started coming down, and it was pouring. It was pouring the way coffee would pour at a wedding. It was pouring the way booze would pour at a fraternity house. It was pouring the way tears would pour out of the eyes of someone who just witnessed their entire village being destroyed by a hurricane. It was pouring. I could do metaphors for hours, but let's just say that rain was coming down harder than a piece of steel. That rain was coming down harder than an erection on a man who was on antidepressants. That rain was coming down harder than a man with no chin. That rain was coming down harder than granite, than lead. My windshield wipers tried to push the rain aside, but it was like trying to push aside the fat lady at the circus. It was like trying to push aside a stubborn child who didn't want to get out of the way. The wipers couldn't push the rain away, so I swerved to and fro, and luckily I wound up at the fair's address. And what I saw next knocked me for a loop. She was absolutely gorgeous. She had on a jester hat for some reason. A beautiful jester hat that had on the little bells that came down. It was red. The jester hat was made of velvet, and the rain was pelting the jester hat the way children would pelt other children with spitballs. The rain was pelting that jester hat the way people would pelt with cell pelts on borders in the Canadian prairie selling pelts. Anyway, you don't need more metaphors about pelts. The rain was just pelting that jester hat. And underneath the jester hat, you could see long, flowing, brown hair that had streaks of pink in it. And I loved when women streaked their hair with pink colors. And she had on a tight green skirt. Matter of fact, when she got in my Instacart / DoorDash / Bloodmobile, you know, all those things, I said to her, "How come the skirt's so tight?" And she said, "Because I saw your picture in the newspaper." And I said, "When was I in the newspaper?" She said, "You were wanted in 3 states." And I said, "For what?" And she said, for being good looking. And I started the car again, and we started driving down the street. The fair was going. She was going to a peace march, so she was actually getting driven to a march. I said, is that why you're wearing the jester hat, because you want to look like one of those colorful demonstrators? And she said, yeah. And that was the extent of the conversation. She just stayed silent. She smoked cigarette after cigarette. I would look at her through the rear view mirror. The rain started coming down heavy, and we finally made it to the peace march. There was only one other marcher there. Because of the rain had kept all the peaceniks away. I was like, well, it looks like you only got one other marcher. She said, yeah, that's Rocco. And I said, you in love with Rocco? And she said, me and Rocco have an understanding. And I knew what she meant. Just then, the rain came down even harder. It was hammering my windshield the way roofers would hammer a roof, especially when they wanted to finish the job by 3 o'clock, and it was 2:45, and they wanted to hammer that roof, and they needed to hammer those shingles in. They only had 15 more minutes. That's how hard this rain was coming down. This rain was coming down. It was hammering down the way a carpenter on meth was building a house. A carpenter on meth just hammering in the 2x4s and the cross beams like an animal because he's on methamphetamine. And she slowly got out of the car, and I said, well, if it doesn't work out with Rocco, please look me up. And she said, don't worry, I cut your picture out of the paper. And I said, thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another Driving in the Rain with Eddie Pepitone.